Morning world, 16th of June 2019. I'm looking at the trine from Mercury to Pluto, and then the square, and then the sextile from Mercury to Pluto. The trine between Mercury and Pluto. A trine links two planets in similar elements. It's 120 degrees, 1/3 of a circle, which is a harmonious, flowing energy that naturally brings a sense of harmony between 2 points. Mercury and Pluto, when they're in trine with each other, is fairly ambiguous in that it gives the ability for the research capacity of this aspect is excellent, but in an easygoing way that doesn't create a degree of stress or tension. There's none of the Mercurian, Plutonian, obsessive or compulsive energy here. It does sort of tweak the capacity for Mercury's sometimes incessant twittering. These are people who they don't shoot at the lip. Mercury trine Pluto people, they sit back, they consider in depth the ramifications of what they're about to say or what they're hearing before making any type of mental judgments. There is a type of mental capacity, intensity here, but instead of coming across as a kind of extremism, it comes across more as a capacity for focus and concentration. And Mercury trine Pluto people, when they put their attention into something, they do it thoroughly, properly, or not at all. Very good at long-term research, dig deep, delving. These are the people who will quite happily research things over a long period of time, and they're very good at storing facts in their brains and slowly building up all the information they need to get the big picture. It's a slow aspect, but it's a thorough aspect. These are the people who will just sit in the background and give you that knowing look, which makes you think, yeah, you've actually got your finger on the pulse and you can see what's going on, but you're keeping your powder dry at the moment. But there's always going to be an insatiable questioning of what's going on and why is it happening in the background. And it's never going to be enough for Mercury trine Pluto to be satisfied with superficial or mundane situations, which is what makes them such great problem solvers. They get to the bottom of things. They have the internal patience to sit back and contemplate, and they're very good at playing the waiting game. Mercury trine Pluto is perhaps one of the best aspects in the sky for having the ability to persevere through to the end. Now, Mercury square Pluto is a very different story. Mercury square Pluto it emphasizes the more trickster aspect of Mercury. It can produce highly charged situations, and when young, this can be about compulsive mental patterns which just race ahead regardless of their effects on the person or on anyone else. There can be an obsessive attitude. Of course, this can give extreme concentration and focus to the point of ignoring all other. And there is a risk of burnout here, again, when young. It can trend towards some type of mental paranoia when young. And by young, I mean with Mercury square Pluto, I generally mean under 35, can mean under 40. These are the people who will convince themselves that their course of action is exactly the right one, even when all their friends and family disagree. And they're convinced that the power of the mind can overcome anything. Often they have to learn the hard way that this isn't necessarily the case. There can be non-stop verbal diarrhea with Mercury square Pluto, and it can be incessant, which will then suddenly stop as the switch of the functionality goes from the verbal into the mental, and then it'll switch back on again when they start talking again. Pluto doesn't know when to stop sometimes, And when Mercury is challenged by Pluto, it reacts by trying to understand, to logicalize and rationalize, as opposed to just trusting the process of the unconscious and the subconscious. When they do shut up, you can be sure they're weighing up really big decisions. Often with Mercury squared Pluto, you'll get these people will talk, then they go really quiet, and then they'll come out with specific sentences or utterances in a way that cuts straight through to the core of it, like a hot knife through butter. They have a desire to kind of stick it up to the told you so brigade, and they have an intensity like an engine in high gear. So when you hear them coming, get out of the way. Mercury square Pluto is one of the more difficult aspects in the chart. It makes it very difficult for them to still their mind. And that brings me to Mercury sextile Pluto, which is actually a lovely aspect because Mercury is the only planet in the sky which is seen as genderless. So its relationship with Pluto is always going to have some deep psychological undertones, regardless of any external influences, and it's going to give the capacity for objective, detached, impersonal, rational thought. And it's going to have a very good capacity for all communication mediums, whether mental, verbal, technological. This works very well with the Pluto urge towards a deep comprehension at life, at all levels. And these are the people who can zero in on the core of a matter like that. They're always very good at analysing their own motives and their own reasons for doing things. And these are, to be honest, some of the sanest people in the zodiac. If you have Mercury squared Pluto, you're never really going to lose your marbles or lose your plot, because you're always going to be able to step aside from the superficial feelings and emotions and instead be able to be detached, almost to the point of coldness, but in a way that is functional and effective, because that's what Mercury sextile Pluto does best. Often their opinions are sought by other people, and they should be taken seriously, because these people have the opportunity to research things in a way that's thorough, and their ability to reach far-reaching conclusions unfortunately often goes unnoticed by people around them. Yet it's there in the background. What it does give, not only does it give a really comprehensive understanding of anything it chooses to study, but Mercury sextile Pluto gives a really strong willpower. The ability to not only surrender or yield, to never surrender or yield, but also to focus exclusively on something to the exclusion of all other, but in a way that benefits and integrates other people into the ongoing conclusions. Okay, let's move on. Let's look at Mercury conjunct and opposite Pluto. That's in the next video in a couple of minutes.